Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. We now start the press briefing of the spokesperson of anti-terroristic operation, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good morning, dear colleagues. Within the last day, the situation in the east of Ukraine is still unstable. The combatant does not observe Minsk consent and had armed provocations against our forces. Combatants 27 times shelled our positions with the use of 220mm mortars, 6 times it was 122mm cannons, and 3 times they used tank shelling. As well as snipers worked from the adversary side. The toughest fighting happened at Mariupol direction, it's Grigorievka, not far from Granitne. Donetsk direction, it's airport, line of defense, not far from Granitne. As well the suburbs of Gorlivka, Lugansk direction is Bakhmutska highway and Shastya and Stanitsa Luganska. At the same time, our servicemen have withstand two combatants. Not long ago, at Krymske, at Novoidarsky region of Lugansk, district of Lugansk region, there was a combat conflict between the Ukrainian servicemen and bandit group of LPR. 3 Reka diversionary groups of adversary offended our fighters, and because of the courage and professional actions of our fighters, the ATO forces destroyed 2 cars, 1 car with a mortar, 3 machine gun utyos, and Gaz-66 car with explosives. And the combatants had losses and withdrew. The adversary has very active air reconnaissance, and according to information of the State Border Guard Service, our fighters has registered 16 flights of UAV in ATO zone. Within last day, not a single serviceman was killed on our side, and 1 was wounded not far from Leninsk settlement at Gorlivka. Ukrainian military observe Minsk agreement, and representative of Ukrainian side of Joint Center on ceasefire, coordination and control traveled as a working trip to Shirokino, not far from Mariupol. Once again, we remind you that the demilitarization of the settlement is planned, and they would like to settle there and stand in OSCE mission point. Ukrainian side is ready to provide for demilitarization of its responsibility zone for truce, full-fledged. The world is understanding that Russian authorities were facing lies and about the east of Ukraine, and the head of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, General Viktor Muzhenko, called named military regiments of Russian Federation that took part in the eastern of Ukraine. According to Viktor Muzhenko, Russian forces, armed forces, took active part in the combat actions in February at the Balsevo site against our fighters and had heavy losses there. There is occupational Russian contingent in Donbass, and now this is 15th separate armed motor infantry of the 2nd Army of the Central Military Region, and 8A individual motor infantry brigade, 331st Regiment from Kostroma and 98th Division. Again, Muzhnenko said that some military regiments that took part in the occupation of Ukraine, specifically 98th and 106th airborne divisions, planned to take part in the military parade on 9th May in Moscow. This information is confirmed with our with our foreign partners. For instance, acting spokesperson of the State Department of the USA, Mary Howe, proved that Russian forces stay in Donbass, providing many photos and other evidences. Ukrainian National Guards and the President of the USA, Barack Obama, claimed that Washington has no intention to refuse to lift sanctions against Russia until Minsk agreements will be fulfilled in full and Donbass will be a peaceful region. Ukrainian National Guards training constantly, and there were drills of our fighters at the site not far from Shostka at Sumy region, where rounds from different types of armory. The guard serviceman has infield training. There was a legend. According to that, it was an attempt of diversion at the territory of the military unit and the offensive of some armed forces at one of the checkpoint of the ATO. So the future officers or officers to be had to cover 25 kilometers by foot, and they transported and evacuated wounded and demined the site with at the same time withstanding the offensive of the adversary. Ukrainian special forces continued to capture adversary diversions. Within last 3 days, the counterintelligence of the security forces of Ukraine detained at the Kharkiv region 5 citizens that suspiciously to have certain adversaries and terroristic acts, and probably it was one of the Ukrainian citizens that could be involved in the blow-up of rail in Chuguyev and Zmiev districts of Kharkiv region. This person was tightly connected to a terrorist that, after the blow-up of Stina pub, was hiding in Belgorod in Russia Federation. Besides, there's a suspicion that pro-Russian organization Ishod on 16th April, Security Service of Ukraine detained a citizen of Ukraine, and they, in the search of her apartment, they seized AK-74 submachine gun, 50 rounds, and the RGD-5 grenade. The Ukrainian Special Service prevented the diversion in Kharkiv, and terrorists planned to have an explosion at the major telecommunication sites in order to get a blackout of all the communication types in Kharkiv. And the coordinator of this adversary plot, the head of Oplot organization, Mr. Zhilin, is now wanted, and he is hiding in Russian Federation. The combatants are planning to start bus transportation line between Donetsk and Simferopol, since this will travel from Donetsk through Rostov and Krasnodar of Russian regions of Russian Federation. The price of this trip will be 900 to 1200 hryvnia. Once again, if using this bus, this is the violation of Ukrainian legislation. Today we have another story about Olena Zalieva, who is the corporal of Ukrainian army. She left Crimean Peninsula and traveled to mainland of Ukraine. The military career of Olena Zalieva began in Perevalne, where the units of Ukrainian Coast Guard stayed and survived through the siege of occupants. And when some part of servicemen defected to under the adversary banners, she stayed true defender of Ukrainian people, and she continued to get her service with one of the units of the armed forces of Ukraine. She is servicing now in the ATO zone, and the lady says that she convinced that the adversary attitude of local people in Donbass is not true, and Corporal Zalieva is very bravely withstand to all the problems. Thank you very much. This is all from me now. If you have any questions, fifth channel. In the morning time there were certain data on the Tryohizbenka combat action. According to operative information, they have a combat action not far from the damaged bridge over Seversky Donetsk River, and we may say that there's some shelling is going on now, but the scale of this fighting is not higher than average, and our guys, they hold their line, and not a single special fact about this fighting we have. And tomorrow you will have all the detailed information on this combat action. Alexander Rusev, Renis. Recently more and more experts mention Kharkiv. What is the situation today in the near border zone? Because Kharkiv is not far from Russian border. Could it be that a new front line will appear not far from Kharkiv? What actions our border guard services exercise in order to prevent from this adversary operation? In the anti-terroristic operation area and in adjacent vicinity to this area, we have constant monitoring of the situation, and the border guard units and our operational sources from the other side tell us about the redislocation or accumulation of militants or armed forces. They constantly deliver this information to us, so this information we have it in time, and thus we may react to any type of aggravated situation and accumulation of our adversary. So we have a active reserve forces. In any case, it will be applied. Ukraine channel. And there's an information on another convoy of machinery from Russia, traveling from Russia to Donbass. Yesterday, today or tomorrow. There's a video of today's information. We do not have yet these data. If no more question, then the briefing is over. Thank you, Colonel. Goodbye, everybody.